Special focus today on the State Fairgrounds. Oops. Hello and welcome to Tapping into Transit Live, a special focus on the State Fairgrounds. My name is Megan Owens. I'm the Executive Director of Transportation Riders United, and I'm honored to be joined today by Lauren Hood, who is the Vice Chair of the City Planning Commission, in addition to lots of other great roles she holds all throughout the city. And we are going to be talking a little today about the State Fairgrounds and what is planned for that site. As most people have heard, this historic property that for 100 years, I think, hosted the Michigan State Fair for people all around the city, the region, and the state to enjoy. That property's been empty for most of the last decade, unfortunately. A number of the historic buildings have been lost or taken down. There are still a few historic properties, but it's been very slow to get this area redeveloped. Well, just recently, there's a new proposal that would bring in an Amazon distribution facility to, I think it's about a quarter or maybe a third of the property. And they are touting that it would bring in 1,200 jobs and that without any tax credits or anything required from the city, and that the developers would provide a $7 million to build a transit center. So certainly bus riders are very excited about the idea of having an indoor space to wait for buses with heating and Wi-Fi and bathrooms and all of those things. And I can say, as someone who's waited many a long evening at the existing facility, that having that type of site would be excellent. But there's some real concerns about what is being proposed and why it's being rushed through so quickly. This City Planning Commission has a very important role of deciding what sort of plans and development should occur throughout the city, and they were asked to rush through this very quickly. So that's why we asked Ms. Hood to join us today to talk a little bit about about some of her concerns about this property. So for anyone who's not familiar, if you can just share, what is the role of the Planning Commission? What types of decisions does that body make?
Well, we review applications usually from the planning department in partnership with the developer, property owner, to make amendments to the master plan of policies. So that is what this particular application entails. But the last stop isn't City Planning Commission. It has to go before City Council for a final approval.
Sure, and I guess there have been a couple of council hearings just in the last 10 days, and there have been a lot of citizen input, both in the meeting.
More than I've ever seen. So I think I've been on the planning commission for maybe 2 years now, a little over 2 years, and this is aside from the legalization of marijuana, this is like the most public participation that we've ever had in our process. I think we had somewhere around 60 people to public comment. The first meeting that this State Fairgrounds appeared on our agenda went till 12:30 in the morning. It was a 7-hour meeting. We hadn't seen that before.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know there were definitely a lot of concerns. I was in on the first 2 hours of that meeting before I had to step off. So I appreciate your dedication as a public servant through that. So can you tell me a little bit about some of the concerns that maybe this promise of 1,200 jobs for Detroiters here in Detroit may not quite be all it's cracked up to be?
Well, it sounds great on the surface, right? And I've seen a lot of comments from folks like, who doesn't want jobs? How can this be a bad deal? And it's not that jobs are bad. It's just that we want some assurances that those jobs go to Detroiters. We couldn't guarantee that. I'd asked about opportunities for advancement. So what does someone do after they get the entry-level job at $15 an hour? Is that just where they stay for the foreseeable future? What does upward mobility look like in that organization? So really those are the main concerns about the jobs. We wanted to make sure that they went to Detroiters and talk about what happens after the $15 an hour. Other concerns about the application and the process in general were just that it was being rushed through really quickly. As I said, that first meeting took 7 hours. It came back and was on our agenda at the following meeting, but we spend a lot more time on issues of much less significance than we got to spend with this one. We were receiving materials on the State Fairgrounds case while we were in the meeting. So we really didn't have enough time to properly digest all of the information that would have helped us make the best decision.
And that certainly means that citizens who wanted to weigh in didn't have.
We didn't know. There are certainly things that, the general public did not know.
Absolutely. And there were, I know there's been a lot of concern about Amazon in general and these warehouse jobs being backbreaking, very physically demanding jobs. And before we started, you were mentioning something about the coronavirus cases among Amazon workers. What was that?
The last number I read was something like 19,000 of their employees contracted the virus. Now, granted, they're a gigantic employer. So as percentage of their broader employee base is probably, it might not be that much, but still 19,000 folks contracted the virus in their warehouses.
Yeah. So are these exactly the type of jobs that are the most beneficial to bring to Detroiters?
There are so many more questions to be asked. I think generally people stop at a superficial level of information and don't do the critical questioning necessary to get the whole story. Because on the surface, again, it sounds fantastic. Why wouldn't we want Amazon here bringing us 1,200 jobs? But there's just so much more at play.
Yeah, the quality of those jobs, if they, as you said, they won't guarantee whether they go to Detroiters or not. I know there's also several historic buildings on the site. I think 3 different buildings that are on the National Historic Register. And yet it seemed like the only place, even though a good chunk of the site will not yet be developed, they won't, they're saying
that will happen where the historic buildings are. That's the only place. Yeah,
but they have to build right there, that they can't possibly preserve even 3 of the buildings from this 100-year long fairgrounds property. Well, there's definitely a lot of community concern on both sides. So while the Planning Commission was sort of so what happened with the Planning Commission, and then what are the next steps?
Well, it passed through us 7-1. I would also add, the Michigan State Fairgrounds it's a statewide resource, a regional resource. It's not the Northwest Detroit Fairgrounds, and that when we think about who was there to provide input, it was really, we're only required to go like 300 feet around where development is being proposed. But when you're thinking about something that is a regional asset, we think a lot more people should have been contacted, and I think a lot more people would have shown up and had something to say about it.
Absolutely. I live a 1.5 miles away, and definitely only heard about it through media reports and such. So we had a question online of what the next steps are for the public to engage. So the city council is reviewing it now. Is that right?
They are. And I believe it's already been to one of their subcommittees. I think it's already been to the economic development subcommittee. So now it needs to go before the council, the body as a whole. But I would say chime into their meeting to be able to provide more feedback.
Okay. So we definitely still want to get citizen input. If people have concerns, that we will make sure to put the details of the next opportunities to weigh into the into the chat and give people a little bit more information on this. Again, thank you very much, Lauren Hood of the City Planning Commission, for joining us on Tapping into Transit. And I will mention briefly, if people are interested in learning more about this and other topics that are that impact people in Detroit and who care about Detroit transit issues, follow us online, on Facebook, on Twitter, heck, on Instagram, on YouTube, all of the above. And we really want to thank our members who make this possible. And if you're not yet a member of TRUE, anyone who's watching this, I would encourage you to please join today at DetroitTransit.org to support these discussions and so much more. Thanks again, Lauren, for your hard work as a dedicated public servant and for your time today.
Happy to serve.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.